My name is Dr. Kara Kavarin. I am an Associate Professor of Instruction in the Women's Studies program here at the University of Akron.
Dr. Kavarin recently talked with students about female sexuality in horror movies as a part of the Rethinking Gender series sponsored by the Women's Studies program.
So this is a part of a larger book project that I'm working on that deals with gender and genre media in particular. I have written other pieces on gender and superheroes, or how we gender robotic bodies in media. And I wanted to specifically address the long history of gender and female sexuality within horror movies. I chose to study horror from a gendered perspective because I think that female sexuality has always been a part of horror films, that it's when we look at horror films as a way that we work through cultural fears and anxieties, the fear and anxiety that surrounds female sexuality has always been a part of American culture, and that's why I think it has always been so much a part of horror films. What I wanted to look at with this project in particular is how that is changing in the 21st century.
For her study, Dr. Kavarin watched and researched 85 horror movies to see how female sexuality has been portrayed in past and present films.
Female sexuality has evolved in horror movies throughout the decades, that whenever we have a lot of cultural anxiety or fears surrounding female sexuality, it tends to be played out through horror films. In the 1970s, when we were reacting to the feminist movement, you see a lot of horror movies about puberty and menstruation and childbirth. Into the 1980s, you see slasher movies that are about punishing female sexuality by, murdering sexually active young women. As we push into the 1990s and now into the 21st century, I think that we're being more critical and analytical about how we look at female sexuality, and I think that that is being played out now in the horror films that we're making.
But how does Dr. Kavarin view the future of women in film?
I think moving forward, as we push further into the 21st century, we're going to see movies become increasingly polarized. I think that movies that are portraying female sexuality from a feminist perspective or a critical perspective are going to go to one side, and then I think the more traditional or extreme sort of depictions of violence enacted on women's bodies, overt misogyny, we're going to see that go to the other side. Right now, I think it's split pretty evenly, and it'll be interesting to see moving forward which way that pendulum swings. I would prefer to see more feminist messages in horror movies, more movies that positively portray female empowerment and female sexuality. But I acknowledge that the misogynistic, sexualized violence as spectacle films are not going to go away overnight.
With the Rethinking Gender series just beginning, Dr. Kavarin wants to see the topic create change and have an impact on people's everyday life.
So what I hope people take out of the Rethinking Gender series is that this isn't just a clever title. We should be thinking about how gender impacts the world around us, how it impacts us here at the University of Akron community, and how it impacts us on a personal level. My next project is on costume design and gender in fantasy film and television. So looking at the idea of imaginary world creation and how we still insist on more traditional, historically oriented gender roles, and how we can see that through the clothing that we choose to have fictional characters in fictional worlds wear.
The Rethinking Gender series hosts events every month. The next forum will be What Women Want on October 5th in the Student Union. For more information on events, go to www.uakron.edu and search the Rethinking Gender series. I'm Jay Goliat, Lights, Camera, Akron.